The Young and the Restless Spoilers. Here's a thrilling, suspenseful expansion of your plot, focusing on the shocking revelation that Cole Howard might be the man behind the Dumas persona. The tension between Victoria, Cole, and Kane Ashby rises, and Victoria finds herself caught in a web of deceit that could unravel her life. The stakes are higher than ever, and the mystery deepens as secrets begin to surface. The night in Genoa City was unusually quiet, a stark contrast to the turmoil that had been brewing behind closed doors for weeks. At Cole Howard's house, the silence felt suffocating, heavy with the secrets he kept hidden from everyone, especially from the woman he had convinced to trust him, Victoria Newman. Victoria had been lying in bed, her mind unable to settle. The events of the past days had weighed heavily on her, her suspicions about Cole growing with every passing moment. She had seen his strange behavior, felt the distance between them, and had heard the fragmented conversations that never quite made sense. But nothing had prepared her for what would happen that night. As the clock ticked past midnight, the stillness in the room was broken by a faint noise, something subtle, like a soft creak of the floorboards. Victoria's heart skipped a beat, her instincts on high alert. She was awake, though she had tried to sleep, the tension in her body too much to ignore. She turned over, her eyes scanning the room, trying to make sense of the noise. And then she heard it again, the faintest shuffle, followed by a muffled voice. Her breath caught in her throat as she sat up, the darkness of the room playing tricks on her senses. She strained her ears, trying to catch every word, every sound. From the shadows, she saw a figure slip into the room. The man wore a dark hat, his features obscured by the dim light, but there was no mistaking the presence of someone who was not supposed to be there. Victoria's pulse quickened as she stayed motionless, trying not to make a sound. Who was this man? And why was he in Cole's room? Her heart pounded as she leaned forward, doing her best to remain hidden under the covers while still trying to make sense of the conversation unfolding in front of her. She listened closely, and as the man's voice grew clearer, a chill ran down her spine. Cole, the man's voice was low but urgent, you've got to understand, the situation's worse than you think. We need to move fast. Cole's voice, always smooth and composed, responded, though it was laced with a hint of unease. I know, Kane, but I'm doing what I can. We don't want to draw attention. Victoria's eyes widened in shock as the name Kane hit her ears. Kane Ashby. The man she had known for years, the man who had been part of her family's life, he was here, in Cole's bedroom, in the dead of night, speaking with him in hushed tones. She felt a rush of confusion and disbelief. What was Kane doing here? And why was he speaking to Cole in such a secretive, almost conspiratorial way? Victoria's heart skipped a beat as the pieces slowly began to fall into place. The conversation continued, but this time, it took a darker turn. Cole's voice was more forceful, his tone sharp as he tried to regain control of the situation. Lower your voice, Kane, Cole hissed, clearly agitated. You're not supposed to be here. We need to keep this quiet. But Kane wasn't listening. He was too caught up in the danger of their situation. You don't get it, Cole. It's happening. Dumas is making his move. People are asking questions, and if we don't act fast, everything could come crashing down on us. The words hung in the air like a bombshell. Victoria's breath caught in her throat as she absorbed the shock of what she had just heard. Dumas? The name she had heard whispered around town, the name associated with power, secrecy, and fear. Could it be true? Could Cole, the man she had trusted, be Dumas, the mastermind hiding behind the shadows, orchestrating everything from behind the scenes? She felt her stomach drop. Everything she had believed about Cole, the man she had opened her heart to, was now crumbling before her eyes. She had trusted him. But now, with the revelation that he was somehow involved with Dumas, the truth felt like a cold, suffocating fog wrapping around her. Kane's voice grew more urgent, his words laced with tension. Cole, we need to act. We can't wait any longer. If Dumas is who we think he is, then we're already too late. This is bigger than you or me. We need to finish what we started. Cole hesitated for a moment, then muttered something that Victoria couldn't quite make out. But it didn't matter, what she had already heard was enough to shatter her world. Her suspicions about Cole's involvement in something sinister were no longer just paranoia. He had been hiding something far darker than she could have imagined. Her hand instinctively went to her mouth, stifling the gasp that threatened to escape. She felt dizzy, overwhelmed by the enormity of the revelation. Cole was Dumas, the man behind everything. The power, the manipulations, the lies, it had all been a carefully orchestrated game. And she had been a part of it. Victoria's mind raced as she tried to piece together what she had just learned. She was trapped in a relationship with a man who had been playing a role for far longer than she had realized. The shock of it all left her feeling nauseous, her mind spinning with the implications of what she had just overheard. Her thoughts shifted rapidly. What should she do now? Should she confront Cole? Could she ever trust him again? And if he was truly Dumas, what did that mean for her and for everyone else in Genoa City? The stakes had just become far higher, and the consequences of her next move would be life-altering. As her heart pounded, Victoria slowly reached for her phone, the only thing that could possibly give her some control in this moment. She needed to make a decision, and she needed to make it fast. If Cole was indeed the man behind Dumas, the man responsible for all the chaos in Genoa City, then it was time to act. The man she thought she knew was a monster hiding in plain sight, and Victoria had to make sure he didn't destroy everything she cared about. But there was one thing she knew for sure, this was far from over. The storm was only just beginning. The mystery surrounding Aristotle Dumas in The Young and the Restless deepens, and the dramatic tension reaches new heights as Victoria begins to uncover the truth about Cole's hidden identity. This revelation turns the tides, and the characters are left grappling with the consequences of their discoveries. The plot twists and suspense unfold with increasing intensity, culminating in a thrilling narrative. It had been a few days since Victoria overheard Cole's conversation with Kane Ashby, and the implications of what she had heard had consumed her every waking moment. The pieces of the puzzle had finally clicked into place, Cole was Dumas. The truth was undeniable now, and it was clear that the man she had trusted and shared her life with had been hiding in plain sight. The power, the manipulation, the behind-the-scenes control, it was all Cole, the same man who had charmed his way into her heart. Victoria sat in the dim light of her office, her hands trembling slightly as she stared at her phone. She needed to talk to someone, no, not just anyone, she needed to talk to Victor. If anyone could help her navigate this treacherous discovery, it was him. Victor Newman had spent his entire life dealing with power plays, betrayals, and corporate conspiracies. If anyone knew how to handle a monster like Cole, it was Victor. Her mind raced with the ramifications of what this would mean for them all. If Cole truly was Dumas, everything they thought they knew about him, everything they thought they could trust, had been a lie. But what made her stomach turn was the fact that this revelation had been brewing for so long, and yet no one had connected the dots. Victoria had been too trusting, too willing to believe in the man she had been with. But now that the truth was out, there was no turning back. She took a deep breath, her fingers hovering over the keypad as she dialed Victor's number. It felt like a lifetime before he picked up. Victoria, his voice was cold, but she could sense the edge of concern beneath it. What's going on? I need to talk to you, Victoria said, her voice low but urgent. It's about Cole. Victor's tone shifted. What about him? Victoria's heart pounded as she prepared to say the words that would change everything. Cole is Dumas. He's been behind everything, manipulating people, pulling the strings, all of it. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. For a moment, Victoria wasn't sure if Victor had heard her correctly, but then his voice broke through the silence, tinged with disbelief and anger. Cole? Are you sure? You've suspected it for some time, but now you're certain? Victoria swallowed hard. I'm certain. I overheard him talking to Kane, and everything about that conversation made it clear. He's Dumas. He's been orchestrating things in the shadows, and we've all been blind to it. Victor let out a breath, his usual calm demeanor slipping for a moment. I can't believe it, he muttered. But if what you're saying is true, this is bigger than we imagined. We need to prepare for what's coming next. I know, Victoria replied, her voice resolute. But there's more. Kane isn't Dumas, he's just his assistant. I think he's been helping Cole all along. We need to figure out how deep this goes and what Cole's plan is. Victor's voice hardened. We'll deal with it, Victoria. We'll put a plan in place. But we need to be careful. If Cole is Dumas, we're dealing with someone who's been playing a much larger game than any of us realize. This is more dangerous than just a business deal. Victoria nodded, her stomach twisting at the thought of confronting Cole. She had trusted him, but now that trust had been shattered beyond repair. And what terrified her even more was that if Cole had been hiding his true identity all this time, there was no telling what else he had planned. Meanwhile, in the shadows of Genoa City, Kane Ashby had been trying to play the role of the dutiful assistant, but his loyalty to Cole was being tested. He had always known that his role in Cole's game was one of subordination. He wasn't the mastermind, just the pawn. But as the walls closed in and the mystery of Dumas's identity started to unravel, Kane found himself in a precarious position. He had never been a stranger to power plays, but this was different. Dumas's true identity could no longer remain a secret, and Kane knew it. He had tried to push the situation aside, but now, with Victoria's revelations, everything was crashing down around him. There was little doubt in Kane's mind now. Cole had been hiding in plain sight, pulling the strings while everyone else danced to his tune. But what troubled him most was the idea that Cole was ready to strike, to make his next move in a game that none of them could predict. As the Dumas mystery deepened, fans of the young and the restless were left on the edge of their seats, waiting for the truth to be revealed. Could Cole really be Dumas? Could the man they had trusted be the mastermind behind it all? And if so, how would Victoria, Victor, and the others respond? The walls were closing in on Cole, but he was not going down without a fight. His connections ran deep, and he was more dangerous than anyone could have anticipated. What made the situation even more complex was the possibility that Cole had not acted alone, that there were others involved in his schemes, helping him maintain control over everything. As Victoria tried to process the truth, she knew one thing for certain. Her life had just been turned upside down. Cole wasn't just a man she had loved, he was the very embodiment of the danger she had always been warned about. The man she had once trusted was now the most dangerous player in Genoa City. As the pieces continued to fall into place, Victor and Victoria knew they couldn't afford to wait any longer. They had to confront Cole, and they had to do it carefully. The reveal of Dumas's true identity was only the beginning. What followed would determine the future of Genoa City and the lives of everyone involved. If you'd like to further develop the consequences of Cole's revelation, the fallout from Victoria's discovery, or dive deeper into the character dynamics, feel free to let me know. Chelsea Lawson had spent years in the world of business, where trust was a luxury and manipulation was a daily reality. But even she knew that striking a deal with Victor Newman was never as simple as it seemed. Victor, with his cold, calculating demeanor, was a man who could flip a situation on its head at any given moment. Chelsea had learned that the hard way in the past. She leaned back in her chair, her fingers lightly tapping against the armrest as she tried to sort through her thoughts. The deal with Victor was tempting, but she wasn't naive enough to think it was a simple transaction. Even if she managed to get him to agree to terms, there was no guarantee he would stick to his word. Victor's reputation for breaking deals and playing his own game was legendary, and Chelsea was no stranger to the consequences of trusting him too much. "I'm not sure this is such a good idea," Chelsea muttered to herself, glancing at the papers in front of her. She had a plan, yes, but that didn't mean she trusted Victor. The man was always 3 steps ahead, and the moment she thought she had him cornered, he would change the rules. But, for now, she had to play along. This deal, whatever the cost, was necessary for her future. She couldn't help but think back to the mystery of Dumas. Could the rumors be true? Had she been right all along about the identity of Dumas, or had she completely misunderstood everything? Chelsea was no fool, she had her suspicions, but even now, as she pieced together the fragments of the puzzle, things weren't adding up. She had always believed that Dumas's true identity had been hidden behind a veil of power and manipulation. But she hadn't expected things to be this complex. If she were wrong, and if the true identity of Dumas turned out to be someone entirely different, then all her plans would be in jeopardy. There was something about the entire situation that didn't sit right with her, and she had to be cautious. Victor would never forgive her for miscalculating this one. She couldn't shake the feeling that the entire thing was more than just a game. The more Chelsea thought about it, the more she realized that Dumas wasn't just a power player in a corporate scheme. He was a shadow, lurking, manipulating, controlling things from behind the scenes. The mystery surrounding him was almost suffocating. As if on cue, the door to her office opened, and Nate Hastings stepped inside. His expression was serious, but there was a flicker of concern in his eyes, one that didn't escape Chelsea's notice. He had always been a sharp man, too sharp sometimes, and she could see the wheels turning in his mind. "Chelsea," Nate said, his voice steady but filled with an undercurrent of suspicion, "I've been hearing things about Dumas and this upcoming party in Nice. You seem to be involved in all of it, but I can't shake the feeling there's more to this than you're letting on." Chelsea's heart skipped a beat, but she kept her composure. "What do you mean?" she asked, feigning innocence. Nate crossed his arms, his gaze never leaving her face. "You're usually pretty transparent with me, Chelsea. But something feels off about this whole thing. I've seen you at the center of these power plays before, but I'm starting to wonder if you're being manipulated by someone else. Are you sure Dumas is really who you think he is?" Chelsea's stomach churned slightly, her nerves beginning to show through her calm exterior. Nate was good at reading people, and right now, he was reading her like an open book. She wasn't sure how much longer she could keep up the facade. "I told you, Nate," she said with a forced smile, "there's nothing to worry about. I'm just handling a few things on the business front. Nothing you need to concern yourself with." Nate didn't seem convinced. He took a step closer, his eyes narrowing. "I've worked with you long enough to know when something's not right. This whole thing with Dumas, it's dangerous, Chelsea. And I don't want to see you get burned." Chelsea could feel the pressure building as Nate's suspicion hung in the air like a ticking time bomb. She knew he cared about her, and she knew that his concern came from a place of genuine friendship. But this was business, and sometimes, in the world of business, you had to make deals that weren't always straightforward. If she was going to stay ahead, she couldn't afford to let Nate see too much of the truth. "I appreciate your concern, Nate," Chelsea said, her tone softening just a fraction. "But I'm handling it. This is bigger than just me, and I need to do what I can to make sure everything works out. Trust me, okay?" Nate hesitated, his jaw tightening, but finally, he nodded. "Just be careful, Chelsea. Dumas isn't someone to be trifled with. And neither are the people involved in his game." As Nate left the room, Chelsea felt a cold rush of fear seep into her. Nate was right. Dumas wasn't someone to be trifled with, and neither was Victor. But more than that, she knew something darker was at play, something even more dangerous than just business. She was being pulled into a web of lies, manipulation, and deception, and she didn't know if she was ready for what was coming next. Meanwhile, the mystery of Dumas was taking on new dimensions. Whispers in the corridors of Genoa City were only adding to the growing uncertainty. Fans of the young and the restless had speculated for months about the true identity of Dumas, and while many had guessed, the truth was far more complex than anyone could have imagined. Some had wondered if Dumas could be someone like Tucker McCall or Mackenzie Browning, two names that had floated around due to their business connections and their complex ties to the Newman family. But as the story began to unfold, another name kept surfacing: Cain Ashby. For those watching closely, Cain's sudden prominence in the narrative seemed too calculated to ignore. His recent involvement with Cole, his mysterious return to Genoa City, and his cryptic role in Dumas's plans had raised more than a few eyebrows. Could Cain really be the elusive Dumas? It seemed almost too perfect. His ability to manipulate, his ties to both the Newmans and the Abbotts, his quiet intensity. It all pointed toward him being the man behind the curtain. And if Billy Flynn, known for his ability to play complex, morally ambiguous characters, was indeed stepping into the role of Cain Ashby with a new level of intensity, it could only mean one thing: Cain was about to become a major player in the Dumas saga. The revelations that followed would be explosive, and the lives of everyone in Genoa City were about to change forever.